today's tax talk, where I'm going to talk today about the IRS coming after your bank account. I'm also going to talk about the IRS raising their fees. Raising their budget, I should say, coming after you. They're going to use this money to come after you, I think it's dangerous. And we're also going to talk a little bit about these other rules about how the IRS is trying to capture every dollar that's out there to make sure that nobody gets by without paying their taxes. So let's start the show. Okay, well, welcome back. I should have taken that off, but I'm producing this all by myself. But welcome back again. Welcome back to the show. Today on T3, we're going to talk about some important issues. Every day, the IRS has more and more news for us. It seems like whenever the administration's changed, the first things that everybody goes after is the IRS. You may remember the IRS saga. Some years ago, where the IRS was accused of coming after conservative groups and using the IRS as a weapon. I think a lot of that was proven, but since that time, what's going on is the budget of the IRS has been corralled. And other mundane events like that, so you notice it. Okay, and they're also saying that they can't collect on taxes for tax cheats. So now they, with the new administration in, they want to come after people. One of the things that they've done this year is they've changed the rules for 1099. But we'll talk about that first. But first, I want to talk about this story out of Washington, and it's Biden wants to spy on American bank accounts. Okay, so this troubles me because the IRS already has the authority to go after, to subpoena you if they have a reasonable cause why they should be looking at your bank accounts. They can go to a judge, they get a subpoena. Actually, they don't even need a judge. They just they get a subpoena. They go to your bank and they say, "Hey, give us all the bank records for this person," and the bank generally will hand them over. But now what they want to do is, well, let's read the story, okay? Because I think this is interesting, and I think people don't really understand the what's going on here. Biden tax plan would cull financial data on masses of law-abiding, tax-compliant Americans in the name of catching tax dodgers. See, again, this is what's going on, and they want to call everybody's a tax dodger. And everybody will agree that people shouldn't be able to evade taxes. I think that's a gimme. Everybody will agree to that. And everybody will agree that, that everybody shouldn't be able to commit crimes. But you have to have probable cause. They can't just come in your house and start looking around to see if you're going to commit a crime, right? They have to have probable cause. But what they're trying to do is capture everybody's information, whether you've been charged with a crime or even suspected of a crime. The Biden administration is seeking serious snooping rights to oversee all American banks and payment apps. Instead of promising a chicken in every pot, Biden's plan promises an auditor at every kitchen table, commented Chuck Grassley. Under President Joe Biden, 87,000 new IRS employees would be hired, and everyone could expect more scrutiny on the flow of money to and from their financial accounts. As it stands now, the government gets alerted to most income when the payer reports it to the IRS. If someone comes into money and the payer doesn't report it to the IRS, then I don't have to report it. They didn't report it. I don't have to report it. But the law is that all your income from whatever source has to be reported to the IRS. So if someone's supposed to send you a 1099 and you don't get it, you still have to report it to the IRS. Okay, that makes sense. If it's not on them, it's on you. So again, now Biden would change this The person paid is supposed to report to the IRS, no matter how small, but it's difficult for the IRS to know if they did so or not. Estimates suggest that opaque income sources have a misreporting rate of 55%. But they don't know this, right? This is a guess. It's like the tax gap that they're telling us they've been setting up. We talked about this last Thursday, that the tax gap is being used to go, now with cyber cryptocurrency, you have to report every transaction more than $10,000. They're using this cryptocurrency as a boogeyman of these tax evaders. These people are out there, they're cheating the government, and that means they're cheating you. And so we should all get behind the government having more power and more rights to go after our bank accounts, for instance. And now I happen to oppose this. I think it's the nanny state, or it's more than that. It's actually it's the same thing that was happening after 9/11, right? When they make these laws so broad that all of your information is being captured and tracked, and it's just now they don't want to do it surreptitiously. They just want to do it outright. They want the banks every year send them information about what's going. He puts thousands of new IRS agents in charge of monitoring how much money goes into and out of individual bank accounts and payment service providers like PayPal and Venmo each year, and investigating people whose cash flow doesn't match what they report as income. It's how the administration proposes paying for a massive new spending measure, the new measure that's coming out, the Families Plan. And you have to read very carefully into this. So if you oppose this, make sure you contact your legislators and in Congress and oppose this, right? This hasn't passed yet, but it seems like it's going to pass. So let people know that you oppose this so we can maybe stop this. It's how the administration proposes paying for massive new spending measures. And the schemes would raise $700 billion in additional tax revenue over the next decade. The administration talks about this increased IRS scrutiny as if it would only affect extremely wealthy scofflaws. But the extremely wealthy know that they get extra IRS scrutiny and already have all sorts of tricks for shielding income from taxes and from regulators' view. Rather, it's folks who sometimes get paid under the table for informal gig work, babysitting, house cleaning, a stray manual labor job here and there, sex work, fixing a few cars, peddling homemade baked goods, occasional music gigs, selling things on eBay or and so on, who probably aren't likely to have elaborate schemes. So the government wouldn't be able to match these reports with tax returns as it does with W-2s. The report says that the information would give the government enough of a window into transactions to target audits more effectively where there are large discrepancies, and that tax evaders would change their behaviors because they know what information the government has. So again, they say that they're going to target the wealthy, but that's not who's going to be caught up in this. And this, again, now it's going to, even if you didn't do anything wrong, it's going to create more of an opportunity for audits. And maybe you didn't do anything wrong. Maybe it was a legitimate money going in your account for whatever reason. But you're going to have to answer to the government about where that money comes from. I think this, I'm not going to read more of this because it goes on about third-party information. I'm going to talk a little bit about third-party information reporting. We'll talk about that in just a second. But this income that's going through, this is a problem. I supported the fact that the IRS budget was cut because I thought they had too much power going after people. And I always point out that 10 years ago, very small percentage of all tax returns were done electronically, and that was a bulk of the IRS's job. Now, in this last year, more than 93% of all tax returns were done electronically. So that should free up a whole bunch of IRS employees to go after to go after these people that owe. But it's I always liken it to when they want to cut the CTA budget. What's the first thing the CTA does? They cut the most common routes at the peak times, because that's when you're going to notice it, right? You're going to notice when if they did the late night routes where nobody goes, well, you wouldn't notice, and they would say, oh, maybe they should cut those. But when they cut your route, when it makes your life inconvenient, well, that's where you're going to start calling and say, hey, don't cut that budget. Same thing with the IRS. If you've tried to call the IRS over the last 2 years, 3 years, then you've noticed they don't answer the phone. 75% of all IRS calls have gone unanswered. So they don't answer the phone. Then they come out and say, well, we don't have the people to audit anybody. So they've reduced audits. They've gone, so they blame it on this budget cut. So what's the answer? Well, our friend Elizabeth Warren, she has an answer. Part of this bill that's coming out with Biden is to increase the IRS budget by $8 billion. I like this because whenever I ask people, what do you think the budget of the IRS is? They always say, I don't know. I said, what do you think? 800 billion, So Elizabeth Warren introduce a bill to provide $31.5 billion annually to the IRS. Again, their current budget's about $11.6 billion. The funding would help close the tax gap between taxes owed and paid. So, it is true that that there is a gap between what the IRS could collect and what they actually do collect. Okay, and they've always said that, and that's one of the reasons why they talked about the cryptocurrency. Oh, we got to get by this. We can't let this tax gap keep growing, and so we're going to use the government resources to stop this. But we have to weigh freedom, liberty, with IRS agent in everybody's in every office, making sure every dollar goes through the IRS, and we're willing to pay that much money for it. The risk to freedom and our liberties is real, in my opinion. They've shown that before, right? The IRS, that IRS saga that I mentioned earlier, what they did was the IRS started targeting political rivals of the administration. And this is not something that's an allegation. This has been proven in court that they went after some conservative groups to try to stop them from raising money and go against the administration. Now, whatever side you're on, you shouldn't want this to happen on either side, right? Because the parties change, control of the government changes. Sometimes, at least that's the way it's supposed to work. I don't know if it ever does change, even if it goes one side, it seems to stay with the other. But anyway, this is what's going on. Audit rates for the wealthiest Americans are nearly 80% lower than they were a decade ago, Elizabeth Warren says, driving the tax gap to an estimated $1 trillion annually. Actually, I've seen the IRS commissioner say it's $1.5 trillion. It's historically been about 700 or 800 billion. And now they're telling us it's 1.5 trillion. So it's doubled. And again, I think this is just and they don't know what the numbers are, right? The numbers are it's what they could have or should have, but they don't know what that number is. It is really a guess about what the numbers are. And the more they need this money, the more they're going to say that the bigger the tax gap is. Right. So that's where they are. On Monday, Warren introduced the Restoring the IRS Act of 2021, which would remove the agency's base budget from the annual appropriations process and provide $31.5 billion in mandatory funding. This would nearly triple the IRS budget. It reached $11.9 billion from the Congress for fiscal 2021. Okay, so I was at 11.6. Warren's press release said the funding would help close gap between the taxes wealthy people owe and what they actually pay through the staffing and stricter enforcement. Again, are we really talking about the wealthy? I mean, is that where they're going to get the money from the wealthy? When they triple the budget, are they going to use 85,000 more people to go after all the wealthy people? Is that what they really need? Or are they going to go after the average American? They're going to go after the average business owner. And this really goes to people who run their own business, right? Because these are the people they're trying to go after. And they've been doing this for some time. One of the recent ways that they've done this is the IRS started this 1099. Let me see if I can pull this story up. It's the 1099 reporting payments to independent contractors, 1099 NEC, the non-employee compensation. So whenever you hire a contractor for anything, you pay them more than $600, you're supposed to send this 1099. Again, this was the effort for the IRS to track these smaller businesses because they're not getting a W-2, because they're not there's no way for the IRS to know what they're making, so they're trying to track all that income. And what that really does is cause so much more paperwork for everybody else, and it does the extra paperwork on everybody make sense when we're talking about when we're talking about raising more money for the government. Okay, so the government makes more money, but everybody else in business goes up. And again, we have to weigh that against what actually you get, and the freedom and liberty that we all give up. Okay, so this is a problem. Anyway, I thought that you should know this is today's tax talk. I wanted to. I think this was an interesting thing. We'll see what goes on tomorrow in the news, and we'll talk about taxes again tomorrow. So thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.